This module is going to talk about dashboards, and not necessarily what specific dashboards you have to create for management, because that's really going to be dependent on your KPIs for your business, but rather here are some best practices and what's the goal of the dashboard and what kinds of things you want to take into consideration regardless of what you're creating. So the first thing that I think we should do is establish what the goal of this is. And the goal of strategic dashboards, and that's kind of the spoiler alert, what we're trying to do is create a strategic dashboard. The goal is to be intuitive, interactive, and simple to use. And even though that might be the goal for everyone, you end up seeing a lot of dashboards that look a lot like this. And for some reason, people have fallen in love with the speedometers, and really they don't tell us a lot of things. If you looked at this and were not familiar with what we were doing, or even maybe if you were familiar with what we were doing, what do these things mean? And is this good or bad? And why is this one green? Six Flags obviously is a good thing. And 16 incidents maybe is a bad thing, but it's not over halfway. So I'm very confused by this. There's a lot of different charts, ups and downs, a lot of different colors. And again, because there's so many elements here, there's a lot of information, and really what it ends up being is just a big data puke, and we know we're not in favor of those. A more simple dashboard, this is created by the Indianapolis Museum of Art, is a much more simplistic dashboard. And it is missing a few elements, but overall it's very aesthetically pleasing. And they're able to capture a large volume of data and information across many, many spectrums and present it in a way that people can easily grasp it. They went and took the time to have icons. They have the date that this information is being reported. Again, the metric itself, a little explanation, some general headlines or subheads. And again, you can see it spans from electricity to the number of third graders that visited that week, or that month, I'm sorry. So when we look at this, it's a lot easier to consume. I can get a much quicker idea of what's going on. The thing that this is missing, we'll talk about this in a little bit, is the action. What's the next action and who's responsible? But overall, from the aesthetic standpoint, this is much better than all the graphs. And I think that the problem is we think that we need the graphs, and the graphs actually become more confusing in some ways to the executives who are reading them. So why do we even need a dashboard? Or maybe the best question to ask ourselves is, why dashboards? Why are we using a dashboard? So obviously we said the goal of the dashboards is to be intuitive, interactive, and simple to use, but why are we using dashboards in the first place? Well, the real reason that we use dashboards are to provide information, or a lot of information, to folks who might not be as intimate with the data as us in a very, again, simple, interactive, and intuitive way. But the first question you need to ask yourself is, why are you doing this dashboard, or why do you need a dashboard? And the real answer is because you don't have any limit. You don't have any, or you have limited power. And that basically means in the organization, if you are collecting this information, if you're a data analyst working on web, you're not going to be the person who is making the decisions and the changes in the organization, at least not alone. And so we provide information through a dashboard so that we can focus the attention of our senior executives on elements that need to be addressed. Okay, because again, there might be changes to the website that we handle, but a lot of these changes, if we're doing this right, if we're really tying this to the bottom line, a lot of these changes are systemic or systematic or operational. These are things that are happening outside of our walls in the marketing department, and in operations needs to do something with it. So dashboards help us do that over time. And at the end of this is that great dashboards really drive great action. And that's really our goal. So yeah, we want to develop and deliver intuitive, interactive, and simple to use dashboards. But the reason we're doing the dashboards, our main and primary goal of dashboards, is to drive action. So there's two types of dashboards, tactical and strategic. And like I said, I already gave you the spoiler alert that we use strategic dashboards, but let's talk about tactical. So tactical dashboards have aggregated and segmented data, and these really are designed for mid-level leaders or individual teams. And here's the problem with tactical dashboards, and here's an example right here, and again we see the speedometer that everybody's in love with right now. But this is basically screenshots out of Google Analytics or another analytical tool, and we give this to our senior or mid-level managers, and because they know this information, we just expect that they know what to do. And the problem with this is that they don't. We assume that they know what to do with this. They look at this and they, on the surface, understand this, but they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to make sense of it. And they need that so what. So what? Our active visits are at 6,448. So what? What are we doing with this? Is this bad? Is this good? And what should our next steps be? The second type of dashboard is strategic dashboards, and these really drill down to something we call business performance analysis. And this is when we are looking at things that not only matter to us from a web perspective and a marketing perspective, but to the business and at the operational level. And this is really for senior company leaders to take action. I would argue that if you're doing tactical dashboards, that the mid-levels, I don't care who these are going to, but the mid-level managers still need to know what action to take. But at strategic dashboards, these are higher level major operations issues and concerns, and these are usually delivered to the senior company leaders, and again, for the primary purpose of them taking action. So to do this, and actually all the rest of the stuff we're going to talk about today, when we talk about dashboards, is going to be focused on that strategic dashboard. And so we're going to look at two approaches. The first is a critical few dashboard, and Avinash talks a lot about critical few. I advocate critical few. In fact, I just read a great book called One Thing or The One Thing. And it's really about this micro focus on one particular item at a time. And what that allows us to do is actually have maximum impact on that one thing. And same kind of approach here with the critical few. It's how do we find the fewest number of things that are going to make the biggest impact? This dashboard is really presented in a PowerPoint type format, where the first slide is an overview of the complete business performance analysis for the first KPI. And so go back to the KPIs that you designed and pick one, right? Start with the one KPI, and what you're going to do is on that one PowerPoint slide, you're going to type the cart abandonment. We're going to decrease the cart abandonment, right? And so we have the KPI right here, and then you're going to go on the left hand side. You see that we have who owns this, who owns the metric, and then who owns the data. Okay, and these are oftentimes two different people, right? Who owns the metric and who owns the data. Going over here, we have the performance of the KPI over 12 months. So whatever this KPI is, this is where you're going to show the performance over 12 months. You notice that there are, it's just a line graph. Now there are labels down here, but they've been removed to protect the innocent. The months over time have been removed, but you would normally have a label here. In the top right, you have key trends and insights. These are usually words that can be comprehended. This is English. Do not go into the whole stuff that you guys do when you're writing business reports for your professors and look up thesauruses and change words from icy to gelid, and you're not even sure if it's the right word to use. Don't do that with this. I'm not looking for you to utilize your vocabulary that you've learned. While that's important, this is not where to show that, okay? This is English, and very well written and concise English. You can see that they're using 6 to 7 sentence or 7 word sentences, so keep it short. You do have numbers in here, but again, very consistent. Division Z was down 2 to 26%. Division X was down 8 to 17%. Very simple, and they follow a pattern. That really helps. The other thing that this does, and you see it right here, there's a data discrepancy in that earlier time period. Ignore that. You're able to put some context around these lags and dips and increases. Okay. This down here in the bottom left, talks about the impact, right? So impact on the company from the red to the yellow status. So lost sales approximately 2 million due to increased abandonment rates. Tied to the bottom line. Whoops. What does that bottom line mean? When they have a dip, what does that mean for the the business. Customer satisfaction dropped by 9 points and likelihood to recommend was down by 6 points, so we missed the annual target. This is kind of the so what. So what's the impact of all of this change? The fourth box here is the actions and steps being taken to move the dial. And please note that there aren't any dials on this chart, but this is telling us what needs to happen next. And oftentimes we try to put names next to it if need be. Multivariate tests for stage 1, stage 4 pages to reduce abandonment rate are being created and need support from Tom to execute. Okay, so we're putting names here so then the senior executives know who also is handling it. Okay. You'll also notice up here that there's a red dot. That's not like a sticky note or a graphic image for this slide. This is actually a visual element, and you can use an arrow, you can use whatever you'd like. Red means bad, right? Green means good, yellow means okay. And so using this allows, again, if they looked at nothing else, they're able to see right here and how are we doing. Then they can read in here. Notice that it's very concise. It would fit on one PowerPoint slide, and it's very easy to consume for senior executives. Then you would go on to the next KPI, right? I assume that you're not just measuring one KPI, you might have 3 to 5, so you go on to the next KPI, so on and so forth. This is really then the summary at the end, right? So at the very end of the PowerPoint, you show all the metrics. So in this PowerPoint, we would have had 4 metrics, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we had cart abandonment rate here, right? And then we would say, here's a recommended action, here's the expected outcome. Notice there's no graphs, there's no chart, you already showed them the data. This is just, here are the things that need to happen, and here is the expected outcome. Oftentimes what will happen is the VP will print this out. This is the thing, these are the things that are then going to be talked about moving forward. The second approach is something that we call the traditional dashboard. Sometimes your business, this pretty dashboard here is great, but sometimes the business says, I'm sorry, we don't do it this way. So if that's the case, you might be focused on a traditional dashboard, but that doesn't mean you abandon all of the things that we've been talking about this term. Instead, you still want to think about the ABC, acquisition, behavior, conversion. So when I look at this, what I'm seeing in a somewhat messy but yet still pretty simplistic dashboard, I'm really looking at all 3 of those ABCs, right? I'm looking at acquisition, I'm looking at behavior or conversions. I guess this is more, again, new visitors, acquisition, right? Successful visits, signups, behavior, right? So we have a mix in here, but there's definitely A, B, and O throughout here. We'll also see here that you still have the key findings and recommendations. This has to be on every single dashboard you do, regardless of what format you use. Really, the secret to your success is coming back around that digital measurement marketing model, the DMMM. And so what you want to be looking for, again, is that 3 elements, right? And you want to be looking for goals, KPIs, and segments. These are, if you're successful, this is what you're focusing on, right? So you already have identified your KPIs. So now what you're doing is you're using those KPIs to show them your measurement on each of them and how we're doing so far. There's 5 basic rules for dashboards that I want to go over with you. Don't report, the ABCs, context, drive action, and kill some of the metrics that are not driving action. The first thing is don't report. And again, this is more of a summary of things we just talked about. Do not data puke. Just because you think it's interesting data does not mean it belongs on a dashboard. Go back and ask yourself, was this created from the DMMM? Is this a KPI that we as a business have been focusing on? Does this tie to the business objectives? Don't just put it on there because it's cool. Now, if there's really something that, fits in that category of we need to take action on this, then it should be tied to a KPI, because otherwise, why are you measuring it? Making sure that there's recommendations on every dashboard. I don't care what it looks like, there needs to be a paragraph or bullet points of recommendations and next steps. Keep it to 1 page and readable. Make sure that it fits onto an A4 size paper, maximum 8.5 by 11, but I would even say a half of an 8.5 by 11. As I said, the digital measurement marketing model is your BFF, so use it. Never leave the interpretation to the executives, because they might not interpret the way that they need to be, or they might not want to use the brain power or their brain energy. They don't want to exhaust themselves trying to figure out what they should do next. You are intimate with the data. You need to make those recommendations for them. They might not agree with you, but then it furthers a discussion. And then once you know what they want, you're able to give them what they're looking for better the next time. Second, remember your ABCs. That's acquisition, behavior, and conversions, or if you like the ABOs, acquisition, behavior, and outcomes, same thing. Make sure that you're tying it back to the metrics. Make sure that you're still looking at segments, things like task completion rate. And again, make sure that you're making recommendations, something like business is going to take X, Y, and Z action to improve A, B, and C. Okay, so make sure that your recommendations are making recommendations for all three: acquisition, behaviors, and conversions. It's all about context, right? So if I tell you, sales are at 15%, what does that mean, right? I don't know. Is that good? Is that bad? But going back to some of the things we talked about in some of our previous modules, what's the industry average? Is 15% conversion rate a good thing? I don't know. Well, maybe your industry, it is. Maybe it's extremely high, or maybe for your industry, it's extremely low. Provide context around what's going on. And sometimes this can be as simple as, here's what our data was last month, here's what it is this month. Obviously, that would be the metric that you're reporting. And here's what it was last year. That provides at least some context. But go back to your targets. You set targets with the DMMM. So what were your targets, and how are you performing against the targets? Again, look at segmentation. So maybe, how are men and women performing? Or what about paid versus organic search? How are they performing against each other? Doing some comparison. Screenshots obviously are wonderful. Sometimes we need to show them what we're talking about. So if we're talking about a drop in the way people are navigating our site, or an increase in bounce rate, show them an example. We'll talk about competitive intelligence, or we talked about competitive intelligence in another module. Show them a screenshot of your website versus one of your competitors, and make the argument that theirs is easier to navigate based on the information that you have provided them. That visual context will help. Even if it's not against a competitor, just showing them what you're talking about can help. Look at industry benchmarks. I know in the competitive intelligence module, we talk about some different sources that you can use to get some industry benchmarks. Again, the 15% sales, is that good, bad, ugly? And again, look at the competitive intelligence. Driving action. The goal is not to inform or educate. And I know for many of us, we have a passion to educate people about web and analytics and our new methodologies that we're using, but that's not your goal of a dashboard. Your goal of a dashboard really is to drive action. Yes, do we inform people? Absolutely. Do we educate people? Yes. But if our primary goal is to inform, then we're going to end up with data puke. If our primary goal is to drive action, we're going to start from, here's what I think they need to do, and we're going to give them the information that helps them make that decision. Prioritize, and again, this goes back to the critical few. Prioritize what you show them. And I really mean that, because if you don't prioritize it for them, everything gets equal attention. And you know better than I, or you and I know better than them, that not everything needs equal priority. List the next steps. What are the things that need to happen? And we saw that on the ideal dashboard, right? First, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, and assign responsibility and use a name. We saw Tom was assigned to one of the things. Again, never forget to compute to show the impact computations. So go through and say, John is responsible, so we're going to, over the next 3 months, we're going to go to Google AdWords, we're going to get a dump of the keywords. John's responsible, and as a result of the long tail strategy, we can expect it's going to grow by X%, revenue will increase by Y. Give them those impact computations. Executives speak money, so you need to speak money. Go back to the modules that we talked about, those computations. We have Love Church, right? So what you want to avoid is this whole element of everybody's okay and everything's fine. Instead, we're going to kill, which, sounds harsh. But what we're going to do is once a quarter, we're going to revisit our dashboard, and we're going to cut out key metrics that are not helping us measure impact. Okay, so remember the web metrics lifecycle process of this: define and measure and analyze and action and then improve or eliminate. Don't forget this. Okay, make sure that you're going back and saying, is this really the best KPI for us to be measuring? It's okay if we cut and change. Don't be married to your KPIs forever and ever. Don't have this love church where everybody, sings kumbaya. That is not what we want to do, because then all we are is a singing group and we're not actually measuring what we're supposed to be measuring. So kill, kill, kill. So here's an example of a good dashboard. And again, it doesn't have to look like this, so don't go crazy trying. I'm going to show you how to create this, but don't go crazy trying to replicate this exactly. You might hate the color pink. But whatever it is that you do, you'll notice that it's very simple. It follows a pattern, right? And it has insights, actions, and business impact. It has all the things that we just talked about. This data I'm going to show you from the original is very, very synthesized. It's very synthesized to just show what's important to that particular business. Right? So the first thing that I want to show you is this search contribution model. Okay, the search contribution model, if you go to acquisition, all traffic, and then source medium, this is what you're going to see. And we see the ABCs, right? Acquisition, behavior, conversions. So you say, oh, perfect. I'm just going to cut and paste this chart right into my report. And everyone will understand it. Everyone will know it and love it. And the answer is no, they won't. And the reason that they won't is because some of this information is redundant. Some of this information is frustrating, and some of this information is just not what you want to show them. And so instead what we do is we're going to really limit this down to 3 things. We're really going to limit it down to users, pages, page sessions, pages per session, and per session goal value. And we're just going to, again, look at the source. We're going to look at the channel grouping and then the source. So again, going back, this is Google. If you go to Google Analytics and you go to acquisition, all traffic, source medium, this is the report you're going to see. What we're going to do is slice and dice it with a custom report. So on that tab, all you're going to hit is edit. And here we are in Google Analytics. We went to acquisition, we went to all traffic, and then we clicked on source medium. Then what we're going to do is go up here to the Customize tab, right? So it's right under the heading of whatever report you're in. There's this little button called Customize. We're going to click that. Okay, now, holy heck, there's a lot of stuff, right? And so we don't need all of this stuff. In fact, we don't need most of this stuff. And so we're going to just X out all of this, X out all of this. We're just going to leave a summary, but we don't even want this. We are looking for, we want users. We're going to X out. If I want to delete anything I don't want to delete here. Of course, it's going to be a sneaker here to get rid of these. We are looking for, oh, of course, I just took one out. Let's take them all out. We're going to do per session goal value. And we're going to do pages per session. Okay, and we have a summary. This should be users as well. Not sure why these disappeared, but we're still okay. We're going to go ahead and change this. Oops, we're going to change the title to channels edited. Okay, and we have a default channel group. We just want the default channel group. And then we just want source. Okay, so what we're telling this is that we want to look at just users. We want to look at their pages per session goal value. We want to look at their page, the number of pages per session. We want to just go with the default channel group and then the source. And we are going to go ahead and hit save. Okay, and so now what we see is we see a different way of looking at the same information that we had, right? And so we are going, now all we see is what we asked it to show us, right? Users, page, or excuse me, per session goal value, and pages per session. You can see this is 0, but normally this would have monetary component to it. And if you dig down here in the organic search, You then can even get even deeper here, and you can see their per session goal value as well as pages per session. Okay, so now we actually can begin to make decisions based on some of this information and data. Now you have these three elements with the same default channel grouping, and we can drill down through organic search. And so when we do that, as I showed you, we might look and see in this particular example that we have Yandex, which is giving us over almost 2 pages per session, and their goal value, per session goal value is $1.46, which is the highest. And so that's something that we wouldn't have really picked up on using that aggregator report. I mean, the data is there. It just would have taken multiple clicks. But now we have it in a very synthesized way. My exec team can quickly look at this and again make decisions. Oops. Again, looking at this, why did I choose these three? Because I have an A, a B, and a C, or an O. And so we now have the ABC rule followed, and I have something in a very clean format. Now, you can actually export this information to Excel and make your own chart. So you don't like the way that it looks in Google, that's fine, export it. So go back up here to the top of your screen, and it will say, or to the top of the area right above Explorer, and click export, and then you can download the data into Excel. When you first pull it up, it'll look like there's nothing there. Go to the second tab, that's where all the data, it will look exactly like the data that you had just saw, except it'll be in Excel. Then what you can do is go in and reformat. For example, you can put, because it won't have any of the formatting, you can format the dollars to dollars, you can change the font, you can, acquisition behavior outcome or acquisition behavior conversion, you can change this font size, and so now it looks better. And then another thing you can do in Excel is once you have this data in Excel, you can highlight this and you can go up here to conditional formatting. And when you click on conditional formatting, there's a drop-downs menu here. And maybe you guys learned this. I think you all still have to take the, what's that class called? The Excel class. You have to take Excel and Access, computer applications too, or advanced computer applications. Anyway, in that class, you probably learned this, so I'm sorry if this is a review. But you go up to conditional formatting and then down to color scales. And these allow you, these are like heat maps except for your data. And so if you click on this very first one, what it will do, if I can get it to work here, what it will do is it will color map your data, and it will say, here's the highest, here's the lowest, and then it shades everything in between. So obviously yellow is in the middle, and it will do that for whatever columns you highlight. And so now I can quickly look at this. I can say, oh, Yandex, they're both, they have the 2 highest values, and then I look at Ask and go, they suck because they have the 2 lowest values, and then you have a couple here in between. And so it allows you visually to show this information in a very quick and easy way. And I should also say that in Excel you can do that with the arrows, the green arrows that go up and the red arrows that go down. You can make all that happen through that conditional formatting tab. And so here it is, right? So this is what we just created. We dumped the information into Excel, we made it pretty, we did the heat map, or the conditional formatting, and then what we did was we added the insights, the actions, and the business impact. And again, these are just templates, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's take a look at how to do these other 3. So the next thing that we want to look at is the channel contribution module. And this is actually the assisted conversions report. Okay, and so let's look at how to get there. So I am still on the audience overview report, but what we're going to do is go down here to conversions, and then we're going to go down to multi-channel funnels, and then assisted conversions. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. Okay, and assisted conversions are the tools that they utilized in the process of converting. Okay, so we have, and again, you should know this as you look at this, how else did they convert? Well, they had direct, referral, organic, paid, social, display, and then other advertising, or infamous other, right? And these all contributed to a conversion. So it was not a direct conversion. They didn't come on our website from who knows where and convert immediately. These things all assisted in that conversion. This person has been back more than one time. So what we want out of this, and you can sort of see, let me move this over a teeny bit here. What I'm interested in pulling out of this particular report is the first column, obviously this column, the first column, the middle column in the last column. So how do I do that? Because those are the only three that I really want in my report. Well, just like you guys have to screenshot, that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to screenshot actually right beginning, let's say right here. And I'm going to go, no, just kidding, we're not going to do that. We're going to screenshot any labels. We're going to screenshot from there to here. Okay, there we go. And then what I'm going to do is drop it into PowerPoint. And so here I am in PowerPoint. Oops, just kind of shut that down there. See if I can get back relatively easy. There we are. I'm in PowerPoint. And what I'm going to do is actually delete these boxes. And I'm just going to drag that screenshot right in. So there's a screenshot I just took. And you guys, I know how to do that because we've walked through how to do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to edit this picture. And what I'm going to do is go up to Format, Crop. And I want to crop out just this. So I'm just left clicking, or if you're on a mouse, just click and drag this over here. And you'll notice that this is the bounding box is showing me what I want to capture. I say, yep, that looks good. Now I could also, you know, I don't know if I want the CF channel grouping. I could also take this out, the numbers out, and there we go. Go back up to crop, and I'm going to X that out. Now I can simply copy and paste this back. And you say, well, what good does that do you? You don't have the rest of it. Well, because the rest of it's hidden. If you click crop, the rest of it will show up. Then I take this bounding box. Okay, so you see how this box is what's going to crop. And so I can either move the image within here, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just move this over here. And I told you I want the first column. So I'm going to highlight that, hit crop again, move that down to there. So it's not exact, move it up. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is the same thing, paste again, hit the crop. I want the middle one. So I'm going to move that over here to that, crop it again, drag that down, and so on and so forth. So we have one more here. I'm going to copy that, paste that, crop again, drag it over to the last column, crop again, drag it down. Now I did this kind of sloppily, so I would probably go in and clean this up a little bit, but at least now you have an idea. Now if you highlight all of these, so I just clicked and I'm just dragging a box, and then if I right click or control click on a Mac and go to grouping, I can actually group them together. And so now I can move them wherever I want to move them. So now you have part of your chart that you're going to put in your dashboard. And again, I got this information right out of Google Analytics, but I didn't like that really big chart. And so now using PowerPoint, I can, and whatever, and you can do this with whatever. You can do it with Photoshop. I'm just assuming that not everybody has access to Photoshop. So you can do it with whatever you'd like, but this is the end result. Be an example that we started with. This is what it would look like at the end. And again, you can highlight them and put different colors. You can leave the colors, you can take them out. In this one, we left the numbers, we left the MCF channel grouping. Whatever makes you most comfortable, that's what you would want to do, of course. So the next chart, or the next piece of our dashboard, is the content contribution module. And what we are looking at here is what content on our site is delivering the most value. So I took this from Marketing Motive. You can see here, this is Avinash's blog, it looks like. And so this is his homepage, marketing and measurement model. That would be the article that you guys probably read. This is the channel attribution modeling, good, bad, ugly, etc. Right? So what's delivering the best value? And you see over here, this is the number of page views. So obviously this is ordered by the number of page views. And then it moves over here to average time on page, percent exit, and then page value. So I said that our goal here for this particular part of our dashboard, we wanted to figure out what content on our site is delivering the most value. Okay, so we're just going to start the standard report. So this is just from the standard report. And what we're going to do is we want to narrow it down to just unique page views, entrances, and page value. So again, unique page views, entrances, unique page views, entrances, and page value. Okay, and so using the method that we just used in PowerPoint by screenshotting this and then dropping it into PowerPoint, we can come up with with this. And so this is again an element of how I just took it, cropped it, put it together. Now I've synthesized the data. I've eliminated all extraneous information and data. Okay. Then the fourth, I think we're on 4, the fourth element of my dashboard is something called the social contribution model. And we haven't talked about social yet, but this is a good lead into that. I think that's next. So in this module, what you're showing is the percentage that social has contributed to your conversions. And so, you know, I love amplification rate, applause rate, conversion rate. Those are wonderful things to show. That's for another day. But the conversion rate, I want to focus just on that because this is from a standard Google report. This is just going under acquisitions, social report, and overview. And I'll show you that in just a second, how to get there. Though I guess it's right here. Acquisition, social, overview. And you'll get this as part of that report. And so what this shows you is the dark blue here. These people converted right away. So they were on Facebook, they clicked, they came to your website, they converted. This lighter blue here are the people who came initially from social, and then eventually they came back 6 times, and then eventually they converted. And these are the total of all conversions for your site. Okay, so this site did 1.6 or almost $1.7 million in conversions. Out of that, 59,000 were people who converted via social over time, and 32,000 converted on the very first click. Okay, and then so over here we also show total number of sessions. This is from the Google Analytics report. Sessions via social referral, conversions, contributed social conversions, last interaction social conversions. So this is actually a pretty simplified chart, but we want to make it even simpler. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 pieces of information. Your cursor should not be in the middle of this when you do that. Sorry about that. But we took that chart that we just saw, and then what we did was we took the sessions, and the way I do that is, again, just to go back up here to sessions, and I'm not taking, oops, let's see if I can do that again. I'm going to screenshot just that guy, right? And I'm going to capture him. Okay, and so, and the other thing I'm going to capture is sessions via social referral, if I can say that. And so again, I'm going to go up here to this, and I'm going to just capture that guy, right? And then what I do is I do the exact same method that I just showed you. Again, you can do it in Photoshop, I don't care, InDesign, whatever floats your boat, or just PowerPoint. And I'm going to lay it out something like this. So now I have the label, and you'll notice that I moved this up here. You can do that just, again, by cutting this piece out, cutting that piece out, putting it up here. But now I have all this information in a nice little square that I can group together and, again, attach it to my dashboard. And so you see that that piece down here. I think I may have accidentally cut those 2 pieces off here at the bottom, but then you have the insights, actions, and business impact, and you'll notice here's all our charts, right? The business impact for all of these different reports, right? The other thing that I think is interesting, and this is just more interesting, but I want to show you an example of how to take this stuff and put it into a bar chart that looks a little bit better than this. So this is a chart that shows, and this is good for people who are in advertising and marketing. So if you're in the IMC major, listen up. If you're not, listen up anyway. This is a media influence module. And so this shows, here are all the media that people can consume. Here's the amount of time people are spending in our demographic. Here's the percentage of their time that they're spending on each of these. And here's what our advertising spend looks like. So here's the dollars in terms of percentages. So out of our total budget, here's what we're spending on each of these. So we're spending 45% of our budget on television, but only 38% are spending their time on TV. 12% people's time is spent on radio, but we're only spending 10% of our budget. Now this one's way out of whack. People are only spending 5% of their time on print, and we're spending 19% of our money on print. This is what I call, it's a political term called incumbentitis, which basically means we're doing the same thing we've always done, and you're going to get burned. So our budget, if this was my budget, I would certainly be making some adjustments, because look down here, mobile. 20% of people's time spent on mobile, but we're only spending 4% of our advertising dollars on mobile. So this is a really good chart, but I want to show it in a way that it's going to get people's attention. if this isn't good enough. And so, but again, taking that Excel, dropping things into Excel, you can just copy and paste that data, dropping into Excel, going up to bar graph, which I'm sure you all know how to do. And now you have a beautiful little graph here with the table at the bottom, or key at the bottom, the different media also here, and then some labels with some shading. And it certainly makes a difference between this and that. And this takes you about 5 minutes in Excel. If you are not familiar with how to do this, please shoot me an email and let me know, and I will send you a separate tutorial video on how to do this, because this is a skill that you probably need as you move into the workforce. Finally, one final example. So this is a template that you can use for a dashboard, right? And so you see here, here's the acquisition, here's the behavior, here's the outcomes. Click-through rate, time on site conversion rate, bounce rate, page views, task completion rate. So it gives you some metrics that you might be interested in showing, but at the bottom you'll notice, regardless of what you put up here, we have insights and recommended actions.